Importing Farming Simulator i3d files into Blender? For years, everyone just said that isn't possible. Well, it is now. In this video, I'll walk you through my free i3d importer add-on from start to finish, installing it, the one setting you have to configure, importing a model with all its materials and textures, every tool in the sidebar, and then sending it all back out through the Giants i3d exporter for a clean round trip. By the end, you'll be able to pull any FS25 model straight into Blender and edit it. Hi Virtual Landscape Architect, I'm Nadine, and my mission is to build the most complete and practical place for farming simulator modding. So without further ado, let's switch to my computer and get started. Alright, first things first, let's get the add-on installed. A few requirements before we start. You need Blender 5.1 or newer, and you need Farming Simulator 25 or 22 installed on the same machine, because the add-on reads the game's own textures and shaders to rebuild the materials. And then finally, you need the most recent version of the Giants i3d exporter for FS25, version 10.02. This one also works on the newest Blender version. And there is also one optional extra, the parallax node extension for Blender. If you have it installed, the debug materials use real parallax occlusion mapping and look a little nicer. If you don't have the add-on, it will just fall back to simple bump mapping. I'll put a link where to find it in the description. But you don't need it to import models at all, so let's move on. To get my Blender add-on, head on to the project's releases page on GitHub. The link is in the description. You find the releases on the right side, click on it, and then download the zip file at the bottom of the page. Keep it zipped, do not unzip it, and then open Blender. There are two ways to install the add-on in Blender. The quickest is drag and drop. Just drag the zip file straight from your file manager into Blender, and then confirm the installation. One heads up, if you have never used the drag and drop installation in Blender before, you might have to do it twice. Once to allow the method, and the second time to actually install the add-on. The second way is through Preferences. You go to Preferences and then Add-ons, and click the little downward arrow over here and say Install from Disk, and then choose the zip which you saved. To confirm the add-on is active, you can search over here for i3d. Here you have it. It should have a checkbox next to it, and here you can see it. To fully load it, it's best to uncheck and check again, because then you see also the preferences of the add-on, and then you will also be able to use the N key to get the N panel toolbar. If you have this, you are good to go. Before you try your very first import with the tool, there is one setting you have to do in the preferences, so go back there. And here you have a section where it says Path. Here you have to fill in your game data folder. For me, I use Steam, so that's under Steam Apps, Common, and then Farming Simulator 25. If you installed it directly, it may be different for you. That's it. Now we are able to use the add-on. The other settings are optional, but I will do this one. This is the default export folder for the loaded i3d files. Then it will pre-fill it in the exporter already. Let's do a quick walkthrough of the other available preferences. You have this box where it says Import Defaults. Here you have a few default settings. If you hover over it, you get a description. The first one, Apply Axis Correction by default, is about rotating the models when you import them. Blender uses a Z-up system, and Giants and Farming Simulator uses Y-up. So if you want to rotate the models correctly to edit them in Blender, leave this on. Auto hide invisible shapes by default will automatically hide shapes such as collision shapes or something, which are also invisible in the Giants editor by default, but they are visible in Blender by default. So ticking this box will cause the importer to hide them for you, but you can always unhide them later. Build PBR debug materials by default will create a second set of materials which mimics the look in the Giants editor and give you also some sliders to edit it. You will see how that works in a minute. Attach debug materials to the mesh by default. If you create the debug materials, you can choose to also link them to the imported model directly. If you don't, the exportable materials will be used, and if you activate it, you will get the debug materials. And then the last box down here is specifically for imports of terrain. The first one says terrain level of detail, LOD, and here you can steer how many pixels of the terrain you want to import. For a 2-kilometer map, it will be around 4 million pixel. Half of it 2, of course, and then a quarter of it will only be 1 million pixel, but of course it will also have less details. And definitely the full import takes longer than the half or quarter import. So just choose what you like. Half is the default here. Then we have a terrain base color. If you import the terrain, this will be the basic color of it, but you can also paint it with some of the textures. But since terrain import is in total only a debug import, you cannot re-export the terrain. I also do not fully import all the textures. It's more for you to get an idea how it looks like. You cannot import more than 5 different textures over here. If you put in more, it will just ignore the other ones. Now the fun part. Let's import something. Go to File and then Import and choose Farming Simulator i3d. A file browser opens, so navigate to any i3d file and select it. I will use just one of the previous ones. This one I also used in the trailer video. Here on the right side you also see the same options which you had in the preferences already, but here it's only specifically for this import and not as a default setting. I already want the debug materials on the asset, so I check this one. Once you're happy, click Import FS25 i3d in the bottom right, or just double-click the file. Then give it a moment. Depending on how complex the model is, the import can take a while, so please be patient and let it finish. When it's done, you get a status message at the bottom telling you how many objects came in and whether there were any warnings. A few things happen automatically to make life easier. The viewport switches to the material preview, so you see the textures right away. The view frames your important object, and for big imports like home maps, the camera's far clip distance here on the view is set to 10,000, so that your object doesn't vanish in the distance. And as mentioned, the giant exporter's game location and also your export location has been set automatically. Now here's the single most important concept in the whole add-on, so stick with me. When you selected Build PBR debug materials during the import, which is the default, every material you actually import exists in 2 versions. Why? Because the Giant's i3d exporter needs materials set up in a very specific way. That setup is great for exporting, but it doesn't look good in Blender, and it makes it impossible to see all the extra options like dirt, moss, scratches, and clear code. So you get 2 materials. One is the export material, that's clean and faithful, and this is the one that survives the round trip back through the Giant's editor. The other one is the PBR debug material. It mimics the Giant's editor look and gives you editable sliders, but it is not meant to be exported. If you export it, you will immediately notice it in the Giant's editor because it will look really weird. Now you have your model in. Press N in the viewport and open the Importer tab. This is your control center. It has 1 main section and 4 subpanels. We have here the material switch at the top, then FS25 Snow and Ice, FS25 Invisible GE Objects, and FS25 Material Settings and Debug View. First, let's cover the material switch. This flips your selected meshes between the 2 materials versions we just talked about. You can distinguish them easily. The debug material has the same name as the export one, but just with PBR debug added. Let me show you. So here in the materials section, if I open the list, you see that we always have 2 versions. One is Amazon Orange, and that is with the one with PBR debug. It has also added a number to it to be unique on your model. By default, your meshes use the clean export version. We just changed that during the import. You can also change it in the preferences, and you can also change it in the end panel. So for all your selected meshes, I press A to select them all, you can switch between the debug and the export version. The export version, as you can immediately see, looks white, at least for this vehicle, because for the vehicles, the colors are mostly shader options and not really a texture file. And this is why it looks white when you switch to the export version. Only the debug version will show you the real color. And for you to remember, it only affects the selected meshes, so you have to select where you want to change the material. It's also grayed out if you haven't selected anything. Next we have snow and ice, but I cannot show that here. I need to import a building or something which has some snow on it. Let's cover the invisible GE objects first. By default, they are hidden during the import, and it says here that we have 11 invisible objects. So let us click Show. And this is how it would look if you import the model with all the invisible shapes. These are mostly collisions or something like that. When you export, you want to show them so that they are not hidden in the Giants editor, but when you work in Blender, it's more convenient to have them hidden. Then we have the material settings. If you have a material active and you have selected the debug material, you have options over here which are specific to this selected material. So let's, for example, use that green material, and let's see if we can change it to something else. So now we have a pink cedar. But this is only on the debug material, remember that. And so if you want to export this changed color, you have to use that Sync to Export material button, because otherwise it will just stay on your debug material. If you want to export it, you first have to sync it. And finally, we have the last panel, which is the debug view. Let me collapse the material settings. Here under Mode, you can select what you want to view. It normally lists all your masks and detail maps and also vertex colors. Here we do not have a specific map, so we can't see that here. Let's load a different model then. I create a new file. And let's now import the river house. I did not tick the box to load the debug material, so we imported now the default material, the export material. Let's select everything and change it to debug. So we did not cover the snow items yet, so we have 2 snow ice material meshes. Let's click Hide All. And you see the snow heap on the roof is disappeared, and also the icicles. See that? So here in the sliders, you can also change the dirt intensity, for example. So select the material and then say maybe we want more dirt. You can also say you want more moss. But remember, that's only on the debug material. You have to sync it if you really want to export it. But let's cover the debug views now. This one has some masks. So for example, the snow mask, this will show you where snow will be overlaid when it snows. You can also have a look at the M mask map. And this shows you where we have dirt and where we have moss. You can see that here, the moss is the yellow color here under the window, and the blue color is the dirt. And this mask is used so that the editor and the shader knows where to put the dirt and the moss. Last thing, let me load a road so that we can also have a look at the vertex colors. I will again create a new file and then import. By the way, you can also, when you are here in the menu, you can right-click that import and say Add to Quick Favorites. For me, it says Remove because I added it already. But what that does is if you then click Q, instead of opening the whole menu, you get this quick menu. And here I now already have the Farming Simulator i3d import. That's a quick way to do it. So here we have a road. I go to the end panel and make sure I am on the debug material. And here, now I can select a vertex color layer. It says color. The default name for it is color. And when I then switch to the vertex color mode, it will show me the vertex colors on this mesh. So what is this about? The vertex colors on road specifically, for example, steer how the blended meshes work, and also where we would have snow on the meshes and on the roads. So blue or white over here means that we would have snow. Let's switch back to the normal view, and then let's export the mesh. For this, we have to go through a few steps. First, select everything, and then select the export materials. If you have any snow or invisible objects which you have hidden, please make them unhidden. And then after you have done this, you can change to the i3d exporter. It has already pre-filled the game location and the export. And then you can either click export all or export selected, whatever you want to do. So I click now export all. And then I can switch to the Giants editor and load this. So this is the export I just did. Open it. And then we have the road over here. Let's add a light. And here we have our object, what we exported. And it still has all its materials, and it also has the transparency which it had originally before I exported it. There are a few things worth knowing. First, we have two small optional patches which ship with the add-on in the patches folder, fixing two annoying Giants exporter bugs. One fixes a key error on referent child paths that you hit when exporting scenes with reference nodes. That's very common on vehicles and also buildings. The other patch stops the Giants editor from stamping a white emissive color over here, emissive map, on every material, not only ones from this importer. It's easy to clean out if you have just one material, but if you imported an object with 30 materials, that really gets painful. Step-by-step instructions on how to apply these two patches for the exporter are in the patches folder, and they're in the README. The second thing you need to take into consideration is linked textures and masks. In Blender, when you open an i3d file and use the material, by default, in the shader, we will link to the files which are in your game folder. So if you plan to paint on any of the textures, please make sure that you are working with a copy of the texture and link that to your Blender file, because otherwise you might destroy your in-game texture files. And last but not least, a heads up on what does not round trip. First, the terrain is import only. The exporter cannot export terrain because that isn't even a real shape in the Giants editor. So let me import a terrain for you to see it. So if you import a terrain, it also gives you a warning that the import works only one way because it's only designed for testing purposes. And here by default, I also load some textures, but these are only meant to give you an idea of how the map looks. They are not meant to be fully detailed. You also see that we have a lot of tiling when you go near it. But as I said, it's just for debugging, just to get around on the map and see where you are, basically. Mostly this import will be used probably to be able to snap the border meshes to your actual terrain so that you don't have any gaps at the borders. And then these reference nodes, which I already mentioned, they will also not export. It will give you an error in the exporter if you have it, but we have this patch available, so that will still work if you apply the patch. And finally, joints in movable objects do export to the correct spot on the object itself, but they do not return to their original location in the scene graph hierarchy, because in Blender they have to sit under an armature and they can't be anywhere in the scene graph. But I'm planning a separate Giants editor Lua script to fix that after the export. And that's the whole add-on, start to finish. You can now import any FS25 model into Blender, edit it with full materials, and then also set it back out clean. No fuss anymore exporting each and every shape individually and separately from the Giants editor and then rebuilding the materials in Blender manually on each of them. The import is so easy that you could also use it to only get the materials into Blender. Just import an object which has the material you want, and then delete the imported shapes and use the materials for your own projects in Blender. The download link, the wiki, and those exporter patches are all in the description. If this saved you some headaches, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel to reach more modders. And if you run into anything, drop a comment, I read every comment. If you found a bug, please report it on GitHub. If you want notifications about updates for this tool, subscribe to my newsletter, link is also in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.